Hello, my name is Mike Siver, and we're starting a new series of shows tonight. This is under the direction of No Fences. No Fences is an organization, a nonprofit organization that we started some time ago with the idea of removing the fences that we put around ourselves sometimes that slows us down or retards our growth, so we don't mature, or we build a fence so we can't get a better job, or we don't think we have an education. They're fences that we built in our mind around us. And I've got Sherri Kniss as my guest tonight, because she's right in the middle of her master's program dealing with adults and a lot of the issues that we have all through our lives, and that we probably never do get rid of. The series that we're going to be running over the next, couple of months are going to be from books that I've written. And the books that I've written, one of them is titled, Why Did I Do That? And how many times in your life, Sherri, have you done something, sat back and said, why did I do that?
Many times. Recently as well.
You know, it's this question we always ask ourselves. Why did I do that? Or why did I say that? Why didn't I think a little longer before I spoke? Why didn't I think a little longer before I act? So I wrote a book on it. Why did I do that? Another book that I've written is, what role do I play? Mm-hmm. And that's another question that we don't ask ourselves a lot. Well, I got in this situation because of this, because of that, because of this. And the question we don't ask ourselves, well, what was my part in that? Now, if it becomes a legal issue where you end up in court, then the judge is going to show you what your role was. And the court is going to explain to you what your part of it was, why you're here. But if we ask ourselves that question early enough in the beginning of whatever we're doing,
Right.
What is my part in it? What could the consequences be for my part in it? We may not end up in as much trouble or strife as we are today.
And you may still not understand, why did I do that?
Yeah.
So they both just kind of collide and they go together in some respect.
They do, and obviously my books, because I've learned the hard way too, hold us accountable. What role did I play? You can't say what role did you play, because we are responsible for our choices we make in our lives. This is where this series is coming from. And we got a lot of stuff to cover over the next couple of months, and I'm looking forward to doing this. Accountability today seems to be something that is not taught. And if you are parents out there and you're listening to what we're talking about over these next series, if you do the things that we talk about, then this is not for you. You're doing what you have to do. But if you're not doing it and you have an open mind about how can I improve the quality of my life, and how can I improve the quality of my life and those around me? And if you're prepared to ask yourself those questions and then listen when people talk, not just me, but other people that talk, you may make your life just a little bit easier. And you can jump in here anytime you want to.
You're doing pretty good to start this off with, right?
Well, we're trying to get this started off so people understand. No Fences is a nonprofit organization that is designed to remove fences if it's education. And my sister is a big part of this. She's an educator in Texas right now, and she's been doing that for most of her adult life, almost all of her adult life. And her job in her school that she's in right now is to be the go-to person when people have issues in the school, children, whether it be clothing, food, math, some kind of other class issue, something that's stopping them from being socially acceptable or fitting in with the program or failing in class. Her job is to address that issue and try and reduce it. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of all of them, but we can help reduce them by looking at the core behavior and find out what's going on and why they think the way they think. A big part of it is...
Well, I was gonna say, and as we talk through and as we have our discussions through here, the beginning of the screen, and I'm sure you'll see it at the end of the screen, there is a email address for Mike himself, which you can email if you ever have any questions about any subject matter that we're talking about. Please contact Mike at that Gmail address.
And as long with that, if you feel you're out there watching and you pick up on this stuff, if you have something you want to say, or if you want to come on board and challenge me with something that I've said, please feel free to do so. As I hope you'll do it in an adult, mature manner, because I'm just saying what I think I know, and I can always stand to be corrected, and I can stand to be improved upon. So feel free to come on as a guest. If you have something to say, I'd love to have you come on as a guest. Contact us on the email that's on the screen. It'll be up there several times. And we're going to start talking about a saying that was done by a man named Frederick Douglass. And it's the beginning of what we talk about, and it makes so much sense. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults. And our jails are full of broken adults. For whatever reason, and I understand, because I've been in jail myself, and I understand some of the things that we do, we rationalize that this is our only result. This is our only action we have left. This is the only thing that we can do to correct this situation. And it's not true, because there are other options. And part of the other options that we don't think about are things that we're never told about. I mean, I know people that say, I wish I could do this, or I wish I had that. Well, there's so many today civic and nonprofit organizations that offer, I think, every single service that we may need as an adult, whether we're poor, whether we just got fired from a job, whether we don't have transportation, things, clothes for children, clothes for ourselves, baby needs, hospital costs, they can all be found, but it takes an effort on the person's part to do that. And I remember back when I was younger, and I got divorced, and I was married for a long time, and then for some reason our marriage didn't work, and the role I played in that was I was a drug addict and alcoholic, and it didn't suit my wife. So that lifestyle did not work for me. It didn't work for her. It worked for me fine, but it didn't work for her. So we got divorced. After the divorce, I got my daughter. For some reason, my wife and her didn't see eye to eye. She was like 13, 12 or 13, and I got my daughter. And I was also had corrected myself after that jail time. I was no longer using, I was working, had a business of my own. But I got put into a house. I was living with another guy. He was single. And I ended up with my daughter, and she ended up living with us. Well, that didn't suit him, and I can understand why. He was a single man doing his thing. And he ended up telling us that we have to go. And I didn't know what to do. I was very depressed at that time. Didn't know what to do. I had a daughter. It looked like we were going to end up living in my station wagon, which is something you see on a TV show. Anyway, he contacted an organization. This was in Australia, by the way, at the time. And this organization in Australia is called Reach Out for Kids. Now, they come and got in touch with me, and they came over and interviewed me. And they said, we really are not here to take care of you. You've made your choices in life, but you now have a 13-year-old daughter. We're here to protect your daughter and take care of your daughter. And if we see that you're not able to do that, we will take your daughter. So we're going to offer you some options. You need to listen to us. They ended up I found the place. They have organizations in their network that will pay for the first the down payment for the rent and the first month's rent on a house. They ended up having another organization pay for the deposit for utilities. But I had to go and get them. These people just didn't call me up and say, well, here's your check, or they didn't call up the utility company and say, we're going to pay for this man. And they didn't call the real estate agent and say, well, we're going to give him the rent. I had to go and talk to them, explain my situation, and then they would give me the money, and they did. I ended up getting a house and got me back on my feet. But that's a role that I had to play, and I had to take that effort. And I guess where I'm going with that is, so many people today that I hear about want this stuff, and they need it. Don't get me wrong, they need some of this stuff. But they have an issue with working hard to get it. And they almost want it delivered to your house. And those are the people that, we call them entitled people. They feel entitled for some reason. Where does that come from? It comes from young people. Now, we're only making our shows, I got to jump in here real quick, a little different direction. These shows are only going to be 15 minutes long, so people can look at them, digest it, and then we're going to do another show right after this. So I'm just letting people know, if they're used to watching us on their shows that are 30 minutes,
Right.
These are only going to be 15-minute segments, and hopefully that they'll work out in the future for everybody, and we'll get ourselves focused. This is our first show, so we're learning here, learning curve. But that story I told about myself was because I've been there. I've almost been destitute with a young girl going through puberty. I didn't know anything about that. How does a single man take care of a daughter at that stage of her life? I was scared to death. And she just went along with the flow because she was my daughter. She thought Daddy will fix it. Well, Daddy didn't fix it, but Daddy had some help fixing it, and I took the help. I listened. I understood what they said. There was a few classes I had to go to because she was a young daughter. She was going through puberty. There were some classes I had to take because I obviously didn't know anything about that. So,
But see, that's the point that we're making. Once you get to that point where you've ran into the trouble like you ran into, knowing that the resources are available for if you need the help, but we can back away from that, and we're going to try to get you back to let's build the strong child
yeah.
before they become an adult and in your situation become a drug addict and divorced and children to take care of on your own. We want to set this up where we can build these strong relationships at an early age.
Yeah. And a part also where I was going with that is that I didn't know this service existed. I didn't know about it. My friend knew about it. How he knew about it, I have no idea, and it doesn't really matter. But there are services out there for all of us to help repair our lives. And at some point when we get to those desperate situations, we feel abandoned sometimes. We feel alone. But we don't need to be. And part of our repairing broken adults is being able to look for help, seek for help. And we're going to wind up here in about a minute, but sometimes the first places to go looking for help, and you don't need to be a member of it, are churches. Churches are there to help. Now, they may make you do some of the work yourself, and there may be some offsetting costs you have to do. I don't mean money, I'm talking labor, which is fine. We need to look at how we can start repairing these broken adults. Well, this segment is just about over. So we're going to be back here in a few minutes with segment number 2. And we're going to talk about children being born like sponges.